Welcome. This is Leaders with Leverage, and I'm your host, Susan Tomanchuk. So happy you're here. It was funny when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. It was about imposter syndrome. And I thought, I'm the only person that has imposter syndrome because that's how I feel. I feel like I am the only person. And I've been, we are inundated with imposter syndrome and we talk about it all the time. And we can admit that we and many other people have it too, but yet when we're living in it, it feels like it's very personal. I remember, and I've said this so many times, and I heard this recently, Tom Hanks talked about how he still he said just recently, I have a performance or I'm doing a role and I have to be in this emotional state on Thursday. And I'm worried that I'm going to have to fake it and people may realize that I'm faking it. And so he, like Tom Hanks, who has had such a great, successful career and killed it in so many blockbuster movies that we all know. And yet he still thinks that. And one thing he said he was talking amongst other stars, and he was saying what he likes to think about is this too will pass. This too will pass. The feeling of doubt and the feeling of excitement or confidence. And so I think that that's to me, that was so profound to think about. In these moments of time, we can experience these highs and lows, and it's a matter of managing them so that we can move forward. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I have a better sense of myself so that I can identify those moments quicker so that I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do to move forward. And I was talking to a good friend of mine, Jim Collison. Hopefully he doesn't mind I say that. He's a Gallup, a person that works at Gallup and just a good friend. And we were talking about imposter syndrome, and he hosts a podcast that has millions of followers. And he still thinks about, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. And he was saying one of the things that he does, which is my first tip, is that he knows when, like whether it's an email he has to send out or it's a response he has to do with somebody or a difficult conversation, he thinks about and kind of plans for it. So he prepares like that, that everyone knows that I love that idea of preparing for a situation that may be a difficult one for us to move into or a negotiation. And he thinks about it and kind of plays out all the scenarios, and then he moves forward. And he said he kind of just says, okay, I'm moving forward now. I'm just going to do this. And he kind of goes into auto mode and just executes, especially when he's feeling that fear of not being enough. And then he just knows what he needs to do to move forward. And the other thing he said was, and he does strengths, so he's very in tune to what are his natural talents of what he's really good at. And he said that I just sit back and say, you know what? This is what I'm really good at. I'm going to have confidence in that, and I'm going to make this happen. So being really clear about where you're going and getting to the point where you can just allow yourself to move through and just move through the uncomfort, but recognize that, listen, I'm good at this. I will get through. So that was one tip. I thought that was a really good one. And the other like aha moment I had was I was listening to I was traveling at the last couple of weeks, and I was watching Unplugged with Billy Joel. So he was, on stage with his piano and just kind of talking about his experience of being him and living in his pants, I guess. He's living as Billy Joel. And he said, people always say, how do I get on stage? Like, what do I do to kind of get myself ready? And he was kind of like, I walk from my dressing room to the stage. Like, he doesn't like think about it. And then he said, but I have to be honest, sometimes I get on stage and I think, what are all these people doing here? And I don't know why it just took that time. It was that person that I needed to hear after all these hundreds of people that I've heard say, I have imposter syndrome. I don't feel confident. It was him saying that. And I just went to Billy Joel has the exact same feeling as Susie Tomanchuk does before I walk out in front of a group, a small group, a big group. He thinks exactly like I do. Billy Joel, who, how many more years of being told or shown that people love what you do? How can he ever have any experience in, why are you guys all here? Why are you listening to me right now? I'm like, oh my gosh. So that was like, wow, I am like him in that feels different for me. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday. I just consume stuff all the time and then I talk about it. That's what I do. There's a guy who wrote a book called Chatter, and he was saying that there is research around our filtering or reframing for ourselves advice that we'll give to a best friend and we'll feel very strongly about it and just give them so much confidence to move forward. But yet we can't give ourselves that same or really apply the same level of really confidence and vigor around moving forward with something that we would tell our best friend to do. And one thing that he said that works is zooming out or getting some separation from kind of maybe those feelings inside of you, and using your talking to yourself in third person. So, for me, the application of that would be, I'm really nervous about responding to a quote, and I feel like, oh, I'm not worth whatever this proposal is that I'm putting together. And then saying to me, hey, Susie, so do you feel like you deserve that, or what you're going to give them is going to be at the level of that? And I would answer and say, yes, I do. But when it's not, when I get that separation, I've been using that, and it's a great trick because it does feel a little bit less maybe in my own skin. It does allow me to kind of zoom out quickly and see it from a different perspective. So try that. We all have imposter syndrome. I mean, if Tom Hanks and Billy Joel can both experience imposter syndrome, there's just there's no hope for me, because I feel it every day. I feel it in everything I do. There's just this little piece of doubt of, they're going to find out things about me or realize I don't have all that they believe that they're reading about me. And I'm on a mission to kind of change that and talk about it so that, I'm not sure somebody's going to have the same aha that I had about Billy Joel about me talking about it. But I think it's important to do and say, yeah, do I get nervous? Do I look confident on the stage? Depending on where it is, maybe I do look nervous sometimes. Yeah, I do get nervous before. And I have learned that those emotions of nerves, that they're good for me to have, because it makes me prepare a little bit more. It gets me, I'm always amazed when I finish something that I've done and I'm like, oh, I spent so much time worrying about it and preparing for it. But that's my process. It's not time wasted. It's my process that I've learned that gives me what I need to be successful in the situation. And I think that's the key, is learning your method, your path, your journey. What are the things that you need to do? Like when I did my TEDx, somebody told me I had to practice it. I finalized it on a Tuesday. I delivered it on a Saturday, so I didn't have a lot of time to prepare. It was a very shrunken time frame, and somebody told me I needed to practice it 50 times. And I'll tell you, by Friday, I was so tired of it. And I wasn't at 50. There was no way. I was probably at like 15. And granted, it were my stories. It wasn't like I had to memorize it verbatim or anything, but I had to be confident in it. I started getting insecure because I was like, if I keep practicing it over and over, when I do it in real life, I'm not going to remember what I've already said and what I haven't, because everything's going to be like mushed together. And so I needed to just, on Friday, at one point I did it and I said, okay, whatever happens, happens. You have done enough. You have done enough to be ready to be out there tomorrow and feel confident. So whatever that is for you, what do you have to do? Whether it's you prepare like Jim does and really think it all the way through, and then he just executes. Whether you look at it from a different perspective and you use third person to give yourself that um, different perspective, so you give yourself confidence, or and because I use all of them, and finding what makes you most confident. What is your process? How many times do you have to memorize something before you do a speech? How many times do you need to read an email before it goes to a senior leader and you feel comfortable in it? How many times do you need to negotiate your salary or advocate for yourself until you start feeling those words that feel natural to you, that you have more confidence in? And so when we think about it from what is going to make us most powerful in the skin that we have, and recognize we all suffer from this self-doubt, and we need to shift that. We're not going to get rid of it, but how do we manage through it? And then be proud of ourselves and be able to, after we get done, say, good job, Susie. You did good. You wanted to really kill that, and you did. And finding those moments when we give ourselves back, because I think that also increases or decreases the amount of imposter syndrome that we have, or maybe it just helps us manage it better when we celebrate what we love about ourselves or what we realize that we're really good at. It's an important, it's not time wasted by doing that. So I'm going to bring it all back. Think about, prepare, and be thoughtful about something that's making you nervous, and then just go into execute mode. The second one was use third person to give you perspective so that you give yourself really strong advice and that you take. And then find your journey, find your prep schedule that you need to do before something that you do. And then make sure you celebrate you. Tell yourself you're proud of yourself, as you would, even if you have to use third person, and tell yourself just like you would somebody that accomplished something that you watched from the audience. Allow yourself to be your own audience so that you can decrease that um, doubt about yourself. Well, thanks for joining me. I love hearing from you. And if you want to give me a gift, reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. Tell me what's on your mind. Tell me what questions you have. Tell me your story about how you use something. Boy, I'll tell you, inspiring others and hearing the effect that something I said may have had, even the littlest thing, is such a, it just keeps me going. So reach out to me, even if you just want to say hi. Share this with somebody that needs to hear it. Tell them you were thinking about them. That expands your network and it increases your influence. So do that too. Make sure you subscribe. And until next time, this is Leaders with Leverage, and I'm your host, Susie Thomas.